What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus. My name is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Luke and Kyle. And today we continue our coverage of Apple TV Plus's Foundation. Today we are covering Season 2, Episode 1, titled In Selden's Shadow. But before we get started, as always, a little Core podcast housekeeping. If you guys are a fan of our coverage and of Apple TV Plus, all we ask is you hit that subscribe button and join the fun. So far, we've covered Silo, Dark Matter, Masters of the Air, Severance, The Studio, Your Friends and Neighbors, and now we are, of course, covering Foundation and Murderbot. Murderbot has been a blast. We're 6 episodes in, and we have about 4 weeks left. So that will cross over a little bit. I think it actually ends just as Foundation Season 3 is starting, which is perfect because we are doing the Season 1 and Season 2 coverage of Foundation leading right up to Season 3 on July 11th. Just as a reminder, me and Kyle have never seen Foundation at all. We just finished Season 1 for the very first time. Go back and take a listen, especially of the finale, because that was mind-blowing in certain ways, and we also guessed some certain things. So it was a little back and forth. Very, very interesting finale. We're very excited for Season 2. We're here right now for Season 2, Episode 1. Let's get started right away. Luke, you are somebody that has watched this before. You've seen Season 1. You've seen Season 2. You are our guide. Kyle, let's start with you. What do you do go?
I would say I wasn't thinking this until you mentioned the Season 1 finale, but I feel like this was like a much better episode than the Season 1 finale. It felt like to me, mostly because like we talked about last episode, Season 1 finale built around the reveal that Sal is Gail's daughter, and we kind of had that pegged for 6+ episodes. The Cleon stuff, again, just continues to really dominate the show. I mean, the Harry stuff, we'll get into all of this, but is quite esoteric, and I'm just accepting of whatever they say, and I'm okay being confused at this point. I don't know if any of that actually made any sense scientifically, but I don't really care at this point. I like that we're maybe getting that side of an exploration of Harry's character. So this was a good episode to watch. It was fun to watch, and I'm anticipating that it'll be fun to talk about as well.
Agree. I think that this episode may have been better than the Season 1 finale, and I think, again, it's just mainly because of what you said, Kyle. We guessed the big reveal of the Season 1 finale with Gail and Sal, but something from the Season 1 finale that is very much so an important factor of Season 2, which I cannot wait to talk about, is, of course, the Cleons storyline. But we didn't harp on it majorly, but the fact that they genetically changed Cleon the First means every single clone, every single new Cleon, day or dawn, day, dusk, they are genetically different. They're altered now. They're not a pure replica. And you can see some differences, and we will be talking about that. And yes, the Cleons are the best part of this show, but Gail and Sal are ramping up. I'm really enjoying what they're doing as well. And the Harry stuff, I agree. I'm just gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna live in the moment and enjoy what's going on, because the Harry stuff is always going to be interesting to me. Because again, Luke, like you said in the last episode when we were talking about the finale, and I said selfishly I wanted a little bit more. Just tell me what's the deal here. What's going on, Harry? Let me know. So every time Harry's on the screen, I'm like, give me more info. Give me more info.
All the Harry stuff is going to be complicated. It's going to stay complicated, but I don't know if it's going to get more complicated than it already is, which may be the silver lining. I feel like we're hitting the deep end in that storyline, and now we're just going to start getting some clues to tell us what's kind of going on there. But we'll save that for later, because we're actually going to start in the Trantor storyline here. We're going to go through everything that's happening with the Cleons. Shout out Demerzel, because this is the moment that I was talking to you guys about when I said it's almost like a culture shock when we go into this new 3P, or what's the word I'm looking for? This new trio of Day, Dawn, and Dusk, where it's so great that Lee Pace can play these different versions of Day differently. Like, this is almost like badass chill guy Day, because he can fight. He's kind of got this laissez-faire attitude compared to all the other days we've seen in the past. And it could be by nature of what you already mentioned. There is genetic modification confirmed for all of these guys, even with the conversation that Dusk and Day directly have, saying the deeper we go into this genetic dynasty, the farther we're getting from what Cleon the First wanted. So much to break down there. But let's just start in the first chunk of the banging scene, where let's take that in stride. Is that incest? Not really. It's still also sex with an AI bot versus like how weird is that she raised them. The whole thing is just so weird and interesting. I'm curious at your guys' take on that. Also pair that with the direct revelation in this episode that this Day is going to break the genetic dynasty and he actually wants to get married to a queen of I think the planet they said was called the Dominion. So we'll talk about all that. But before the queen's, I think her name is Sarath, before she arrives on the planet, let's take everything, including like the conversations that Day has with Dawn and the investigations with the Shadow Masters and Demerzel actually saving Day in the fight with these blind angels is what they were called. Also a really cool concept of just people that can't have memories. They're blind. So you can't like really extract information from them. But it started off with the gas. And what did you guys think? Especially with just right off the bat.
The bangity bang.
Perfect opportunity to remind longtime listeners that I am now the Brother Day of the podcast. I started season 1 as Brother Dawn, as the youngest one here. So now I've slid onto the middle throne for season 2. And what an entrance I've made. I mean, I couldn't be happier that this is the day that's representing me. Just Pound Town. And then just taking out all of these assassins. You know, he's getting married. He's making some big dog decisions from the fucking big dog chair in the big dog house. I mean, what more could I possibly ask for? This is just my guy right here. And Lee Pace, just as a general comment to just what a guy. Just absolutely fantastic. What a bod. He's just everything. He's everything you'd want out of a genetically modified emperor that's ruling over the empire. I mean, this is the guy where it was this version of Cleon over and over and over and over and over again, I could be like, all right, that's not terrible. Like I could get down with this guy being the ruler of the Imperium.
Me too, dude.
This guy is rebellious. He's got a nice ass earring in his ear. He's ready to go. The showrunners were like, Lee Pace, listen, man,
let it rip.
You were hot. You were hot last season, but you're gonna be butt ass naked, whooping some ass in the pilot. No, I'm just kidding. In the first episode of season 2, you need to be even hotter. Is it possible? And Lee Pace was like, yeah, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not drinking any beers because I got to keep those abs. But seriously, it was awesome. Crazy fight scenes here. Wild butt ass naked. But the Demerzel stuff is absolutely wild. There's so much to talk about with everything with the changes here. With the 3 of them in general, the 3 Cleons, but also with Demerzel. Luke, you talked about it. You said this is going to be a big Demerzel season, so I'm very excited for that. But you also said it's going to be wild. The difference is going from Demerzel ripping her own face off to bang, diddy, bang, diddy, bang with Day here. It's definitely something to talk about. But before we do that, I guess I will have to announce that I'm no longer Dusk. I became Brother Darkness at the end of the season 1 finale. And even though it's not supposed to be like this, I'm reincarnated because now I am Brother Day. I'm sorry, I'm Brother Dawn. I wanted to be Brother Day.
Yeah, you want to be. Dawn. You wish.
I'll be Brother Day for season 3. I'll be running the show with my 6-pack.
And let me put it out there. They say at this episode, the current Day is now Cleon the 17th. So we did miss a trio, like in between the time skip from whenever Gale and Sal were in cryo. So yeah, we've missed 3 of them. Obviously things are different now. There's just so much to talk about. And I just love it because there's changes to the physical planet. We even see the Trantor rings have been built, which are so cool. And we even, the Empire says later on, like, it's not even for efficiency. It's just to project their superiority and act like that they have everything in control. When we've seen multiple conversations that the Empire is slowly constricting, just like Harry's math is predicting, but it still looked freaking awesome. Like to replace the Star Bridge, I'll take that. But yeah, so let's talk about when well, the healing scene was pretty cool. I don't really know if we need to talk about any of that stuff because it's just like new technology. You get thrown in the pool. It's like from what's the movie Wanted, when you take those little like baths and you're just healed right away. He almost died in this moment. And we also found out that these blind angels had the ability to somehow bypass the aura that was protecting the empire. So that's going to probably come back into play, because if you have that technology where they're no longer safe, that's super important. So that stuff all is going on. And then while this is Chill Guy Day, he's still cutthroat. He murdered the Shadow Master without even thinking about it for failing to stop this attack, because it happened in the literal bedroom that he sleeps in. But yeah, so then the other thing I just want to mention here, and I'll throw it back to you guys, is that two other things, I guess. The one is, not only I mentioned the impending marriage, but he has the conversation with Dawn, and it sounds like not only does he want marriage, he wants to start having kids, which is the natural next step. And that's pretty interesting where that actually leaves Dawn and what that means for the kid and the future of the empire. That's all going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But then there's the other piece of this too, before we can, wrap some more scenes into all this, where Day goes to Demerzel and asks if what they've been doing is indecent. So that kind of ties into this whole conversation. It doesn't seem that she feels the same way about it as Dusk does, who later specifically says like, what you're doing is like messed up and weird. But anyway,
I think I'm most intrigued at this point from the concept that Day is so, I don't want to say anti-genetic dynasty, but like Dawn and Dusk seem like, for lack of a better term, the teacher's pets about this. And he is like, wacky wild. It just feels notable that Dawn is still like all gung-ho about the genetic dynasty and all the concepts. And he even says like having children won't make you immortal. And I just thought that was something that really caught my eye, and that we talked about it at the end of season 1 of, okay, the DNA is altered. In what way? Is it just left-handedness? Is it just colorblindness? Is there more ways in which the differences can manifest in terms of personality and things like that? And maybe we'll get an answer going on. At this point, I don't know if we can definitively say it's the DNA changes, or like, or rather, how much is it the DNA changes and how much is it the mindset changes, maybe, that the Day we left season 1 with. So Cleon, what, is he the 13th, maybe the 12th?
13th or 14th. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
They called
either
13th
way
out in this episode. They said 13th New Fear.
So, or like, him changing, and over the time of however many years he still was on the middle throne after the end of season 1, did he institute something that made people, relax the rules, maybe, let's say, and things like that? I'm just interested to find that out, because I enjoyed the Day storyline from last season. It feels like I'm really going to enjoy the Day storyline of this season as well. And again, this idea of him almost being caught in the middle of his brothers too, where he's kind of suspecting that they might be in on this assassination plot, which is like a crazy thing to happen. And that is an interesting storyline as well.
Yeah, this is all so freaking interesting, and there's so much I want to talk about. But
couldn't they have just done a show on Trantor and just called it the Trantor show?
Yeah,
I feel like I would have loved the hell out of it. Yeah.
They could have different shows, just separate it, spin-offs. But for your point prior, when it comes to the DNA being altered, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy like you're talking about, Kyle? Is there minor alterations, but because it is now known that the DNA has been altered, that the Cleons are in their own head, where they think, well, since there is alterations, maybe this is different about me, or maybe this is different about me. And it just like opens their mind and allows them to be different, when normally the alteration isn't that big of a deal. When normally that the alteration might just be, like you said, oh, it's a lefty here, or, something different, colorblind there. But because it's in their head that there's a possibility that they may be different, it just opens everything up. It opens up Pandora's box to the fact that they all could have been different at any time. It's, they just weren't making those choices to be different. Because there's some interesting quotes in this episode about the alterations. Like they're saying, the more Cleons there are, the more of us there are, the more it breaks down from the original Cleon the first. So are you telling me
Mhm.
that the alterations are more so like a breakdown of Cleon the first, where it's just constant alterations that, they did something to it so that whenever they do the process of the cloning, it doesn't have to be like, all right, there's a new lefty or there's a new colorblind person. It's just changing who Cleon the first is in its DNA constantly. And it's just always going to be changing and changing and changing, getting worse and worse and worse. Is the degradation of who he was in the first place? Is that just what it is? They didn't really explain it yet. And I'm confusing myself just by trying to explain it myself. But I have a feeling that they will talk about it a little bit more. The second thing I
Mhm.
want to talk about here is the succession now. So is Day saying, I want to get married and have kids because I want successors as my children? Is that something we're supposed to have still out in the open? I mean, I would think that Dawn and Dusk would be throwing down big time. And I know that Day is very suspicious of them with the assassination attempt. I mean, if I'm Day and I'm going to say, yo, Dawn, we've been doing this for centuries, but sorry, bro, I'm going to have some
Mhm.
kids and you're not going to be the next me. I'd be suspicious too if I was Day.
Yeah,
Is
of
that the
course.
plan? Is that what he's going for here? And is Dawn talking to him candidly about that? Or are we still trying to, do we still not know openly what his plan is? Is he just saying, like, I want a queen, I want to have kids? Or does he specifically want to, like, change everything and be like, yo, my kids are next?
Yeah, to shuffle back to the DNA and let's say the evolution and the higher level of individuality, maybe of their DNA, or at the very least, the way that their DNA is being expressed, and where I could say that they all have the same DNA. It's just, different traits are being activated from the level of like chance. Like for me, it felt like
Mhm.
beforehand, I could see it being like they were super strict about like everything. Like the DNA
Right.
strands are exactly, the same, and all of the exact traits and genes are being activated in the same exact way. So they're literal perfect copies of each other. But now it's more of like they'll put the goo into the tube, and it's like we're not going to have so much oversight over, what genes get activated and what don't, and what traits manifest and what don't, because
Right.
and I could see that being something that like Cleon, the Day rather that we left in season 1, they were at this point, without fact checking ourselves, are going to say it's Cleon the 13th. I could see him having been like, this is okay. Like this is something that we need to start doing to embrace the future, and like what could be best for the Empire. And I would hope, because again, I liked that Day's storyline last season, that that's kind of maybe the influence that he can have on this season. And that it's then also both of like their DNA is slightly different, and then also the world that they're being raised in and grown up in is
Right.
different. It's just so notable to me that Dawn feels like let's say like a strict constitutionalist. Is like this
Yeah.
is like what we have to do and be, and Day isn't like that, because it's like, where did he learn to be that way? Because it feels like Day has a big influence over Dawn always, because he
Right.
takes kind of a more like a leadership role, a fatherly role in their upbringing and all of that stuff. So it's just so fascinating to think about all of the different versions of the Dawn, Day, and Dusk that we've had already. I mean, it's only been 11 episodes
Mhm.
at this point, and they've all kind of been different in their own ways, alike in
Memorable,
their own
yeah.
ways,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
things
And
like that.
and then you have to wonder, when Harry is saying it's the Cleons and it's the cloning that brings about the darkness, the dark ages. Well, yes, they're still technically Cleons. Yes, they look like Cleons, but if they keep changing, they're kind of different people every time. If Cleon, aka Day, has children and decides that's the successor, is that an individual thing that changes things for Harry, or does he know that crisis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Cleon? He knew that maybe this would happen, but Dawn would assassinate this Day, and then they would just keep going with the clones, and this is just a blip.
I can't imagine that he is outwardly like, I want to get married and have kids so that my kid
Yeah,
is who
I agree.
because that feels like the open admission again to Dawn
It's over.
that like
Yeah.
you're completely beat, boss.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, thanks for playing, but like I'm making this decision for eternity here, and that's what it is. To me, it feels more like he's so zany, he's so eccentric, kind of. He's so individual that it feels like, and he even says, "I feel like a singular soul," which is definitely, in my mind, a throwback to the trial and the spiral and the maiden
Yep.
and those things that day went to, and that we were kind of honing in on of like, what is he going to do about it? And I'm thinking at this moment that like for him, it's like, man, I just want to get married and have a kid and like have kids and stuff. But like those kids don't have to be successored. I just want to have that experience as an
Right.
individual while I'm still alive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
And
an underrated, I think, part of all of this discussion and conversation, it was so interesting that he was like so gung-ho of like, don't fucking touch me, like I don't want to get like don't knock me out for the healing, like don't replace me, like I refuse, I don't want to be replaced by the copy. And like he's so worried about all of that stuff again because he does feel like this individual.
yeah, I think that's perfectly said. And with Day, he is the most individualistic that we've seen of any Day, and that's why we loved the season 1 most recent Day, because it seemed he was maybe having those epiphanies, and the evolution of those epiphanies are coming about all these years later. And I agree, it could just be that as an individual, for lack of a better term, he wants to just have that experience of having children and make him different somehow, because it does seem like as the years go on, as the Cleons go on, they are being to somehow individualize themselves. And this is where it gets interesting with Demerzel, because we know what she did at the season finale of season 1. She killed Dawn because Day was saying, you know what? Let's just embrace this. Maybe we need to embrace change. Maybe we need to bend a little bit. Maybe this is the evolution. Dawn or Demerzel made the decision, and we had that conversation of why she made the decision, and it's still obviously up in the air. But for whatever reason, she made that decision that Dawn had to go. But for this situation, years and years and years later, maybe for the first time since Cleon the First, she's in a relationship with one of the Cleons, which you would think, if Day was getting too out of line, is she allowed, or would she take him out herself? I don't know. There's a lot going on here with Demerzel. I mean, is she like Day said Demerzel initiated it because Dusk was like, bro, it's freaking
Yeah.
weird, bro. It's freaking weird, man. And like you said, Luke, Day goes to Demerzel and is like, are we being indecent? And she basically is like, nah, we're good, homie.
That is what she was like.
What do you think,
curious.
Kyle? What are you thinking? What are her ambitions? What, I mean, can she have ambitions? Is it just what she thinks the evolution of this needs to be, her role in the story as loyal to the Empire? I don't.
I mean, as is my want, and most people's want to be correct, I mean, maybe link it back to what we kind of rumbled about in the season 1 finale of maybe Demerzel is part of a potential resistance movement. I mean, is it a
She's an
coincidence that
Azura.
they were together alone in the room when this happened? What kind of influence does she have on the security within the palace? I mean, I know we know that she ends up saving him for sure, and that can be its own thing, but is she playing like, again, because again, the idea that she initiated it is odd.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels totally out of line with what you might anticipate she would act and do. I just don't see what the reasoning is behind it beyond creating this type of weird situation that they're in this relationship and Dusk thinks it's weird. What if this information gets out into the world? It feels like it's nothing but bad, and this day doesn't seem like someone that would maybe say think too hard about it down that line. He seems like someone like, whoa, like that's crazy experience. Like I'm in, like banging Demerzel, like you want it, like cool, like this is awesome. Like I'm an individual, like I want to have these experiences, like for sure. And I know it's skipping ahead a little bit, but she also has, it seems like a lot of like policy influence almost. He listens to her a lot when they get to the part when the old commander that died last season is found and they start talking about, the edge of the galaxy and the Foundation and things like that. And she is like exactly against what Dusk wants to do. She doesn't want to be decisive. She wants to kind of wait and sit around. And again, if you were anti the Empire, I think you could be a perspective in which she is aligned with being against the Empire. Again, you might have to be under the influence of some recreational substances, but the dots I think are there in a way to connect.
Yeah, and if you're Demerzel, who's been around always, there's always going to be a loyalty that the Cleons feel. They'll assume that Demerzel is loyal.
Yep.
But if she is part of a rebellion, she already has the first check because she's Demerzel in general. But then you get into a relationship with Day, and then maybe he trusts you more. And then you save his life by having half your face chopped off.
Yep.
Maybe he trusts you even more. And now Demerzel, after all of these centuries, is closer to Empire than she's ever been in her life serving them. So I could say it. I'm not against that. And again, we said ourselves that we know Demerzel. It seems deep down she's anti-Empire in certain, like anti-Day, I guess. That's the weird thing, right?
Day says it, I believe, in the conversation with Dust too, of kind of implies almost that Demerzel and Cleon the First kind of had maybe a similar intimate relationship. And could it be that from her perspective now, like it's, this isn't the Empire that I was in love with, that I agreed to serve, and she's clocking how far they're straying. I mean, as Day puts it here, drifting further and further from our genetic origin, we're just drifting. And maybe she is like, it's no longer the Empire that I swore to, and again, we talked about a lot in season 1 of how much can her perspective impact the directive of loyal to Empire, do what's best for the Empire and things like that. So I think we're just in line for a lot of more scenes and things and explorations of where Demerzel is, how she's thinking and things like that. Because we enjoyed that a lot in season 1, again, with that, the maiden and the spiral journey that they went on, and the fact that she has religious beliefs and things like that. Like that's just a very interesting sandbox to sit around and throw sand around.
I told you guys this was a Demerzel season too. So
yeah.
Did you guys lose me and then get me back
for like a split second?
Yeah, you went black for like a millisecond.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me keep going. Yeah. Okay. You guys crushed that. I think that more to come is an understatement. I think that, you guys are analyzing it well. I just think it's always interesting because you never know what Demerzel's thinking as an AI robot. So we're going to see how her actions play out and they go and they permeate throughout the Empire, but we'll see that in the upcoming episodes. I think the only 2 other things we really need to talk about for this bucket on Trantor is, of course, everything to do with Queen Sereth, who is supposed to be the bride to be for Day. We get also introduced to her servant. I forget what she has an actual title. We'll get it, I think, more clearly next episode, but Rue. So I would remember that name. She's the one who announced her into the throne room. But you find out pretty damn quickly that, well, one, there's rumors about Sereth's quick rise to becoming the Queen of Dominion or Princess of Dominion. I forget which one she currently is, but I think she's queen.
Queen.
So Dusk brings up the rumors about it, saying that's like weird and there's rumors out there. So that's more to come with her backstory. But you find out quickly when she's in the throne room, she's not afraid of the Empire. She even subtly,
right.
she subtly does that little dig at them for the rings around the planet, saying like it looks like
Yep.
you're trying to overcompensate, kind of thing. You know, like big truck thing, whatever it is. So give me your read on Sereth as a character, and then the very minor detail that gets brought up here, which is always going to be related to the dusk of the Empire. He gets super hype about the chroma technology that they
Right.
bring. And we find out too in a cool just world building drop that the chroma technology was made on Dominion planet. That's just like a
Right.
random little thing that might come out to play. But either way, that's the new people the new politics that we're going to have to start getting acclimated to for this season. Is everything to do with Dominion and Sereth and Rue and like what their plans are and how she is as a character. So you guys can comment on that. And then the other thing, I'll just, since you did already talk about the commander's message, which was relaying the information from the Foundation and what was going on there in the past, which they just got access to this comm. We find out that now, I think this was through their info debrief, that currently like there's talk about an alliance in the outer reach planets. There's magicians flying
Yeah.
around is what they kind of said. So more to come on that. And they now refer to Harry as the prophet, which throw this all the way back to, I think, our episode 2 through 5 coverage. Kyle, you've been talking about the martyr thing for a while, or you talked about it a while ago. It seems to actually be manifesting in calling Harry the prophet. And we'll talk about the one terminus scene we get to where they also refer to him as the prophet. So the two big things I want you guys to quickly comment on: Sereth, and then if you want to throw any guesses out there about what that meant when they're talking about the magicians.
For Sereth, the bullet I have is she's spicy, and I like that. And again, it feels like this perfect match for this day that we have.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I feel like there's a lot of potential for really funny and interesting interactions between the two of them. And the chroma thing, obviously it's very calculated. You know, it seems like, yes, in that day, like the Queen Sereth, she's attractive, she seems strong-willed, like that's kind of the gift for a day. And then they snuggle up to dusk with this chroma thing, and then, you know, maybe we can see if they snuggle up to dawn in any way, because I mean, I hope that it's like they want to come for it all.
Yeah,
I don't want it to be that like they're just happy to be on the floor with the Empire. Like, I want them to come for the big prize and like try and maybe she is like, you know, trying to convince Day of, you know, our kids should be the rulers, like this Dawn. Or maybe they get rid of Dawn. So they cozy up to dusk. She whispers in Day's ear and sweet nothings and strokes his ego, and, you know, when they're in Pound Town, and then they get rid of Dawn. So it's like, you know, our kid has to be the next ruler of the Empire. And that's kind of how they go from there.
I like that. I like that a lot. Sereth definitely doesn't seem like a character that is just fine and dandy to be standing next to or sitting next to Day. I really believe that she will be coming for it all. And talk about the gifts here and talk about ownage. I mean, they give an extraordinary gift, it seems like. And then Day gives Trantor symbolized, hands it over to her, and she's like, brass, bro. Like, don't you own more than Trantor? And he's like, yeah, but this is just a symbol of what you can have. And she's like, all right, whatever. Like, you know, basically, she's like, I'm not impressed, man. And I think that's how she's going to act. I think he's going to be chasing her. I really do. And I think that she is going to have the power. And I like that. I think she's going to be a great character. And I think she's going to distract Day. And I think maybe she'll have some kind of rivalry with Demerzel, because at some point Day may end up having Dusk in his ear, Demerzel in his ear, Sereth in his ear. Dawn may be gone, like you said, Kyle. This could be part of the reason why things break down even more, because Day doesn't know which way to go. Day won't be able to make decisions the way that the Cleons have been able to, because now everyone's not just going to be yes men and yes women today. You're going to have everyone with their own motives and motivations in Day's ear, and he's going to listen because Demerzel's got him in one way, Sarah's got him in another way, and Dusk is Dusk, where you're always going to listen to one of your brothers. So I think this is going to cause some chaos. And for the Terminus stuff, it took me a second because, like you're saying, Luke, with all these time jumps, I'm like, damn, 147, 143 years, whatever it is, they're just getting the transmission that we got from season 1, and it's crazy.
Well, he just
to
found
think
his
about
body.
that.
It was floating in
Right,
space that
yeah,
whole
right,
time. Yeah,
right.
it's crazy.
I mean, it's unbelievable, and Harry figured it all out, and Harry guessed how it was going to work, and he knew that if you do this, do that, hide the Invictus, use a solar flare, whatever the hard sci and soft sci for anyone who's a dark matter fan, dark matter coverage fan, you'll be invisible. And we know this from all of Foundation that we've watched from season 1, that they have so much to rule over that they can't care about the individuals. And Terminus is very much so an individual in the Outer Rim with whatever, a couple hundred people on a planet so far away.
Yeah, let's just. No, sorry. If you have more, go ahead.
I was interested in the fact that they get a lot of information almost immediately, where they're like, okay, now we know, we didn't think about the Outer Reach at all, and now we know, there's an alliance of all this stuff. It'll probably, maybe we talk about it more in Terminus storyline potentially, but they're talking, Gale as the narrator is saying that like the Foundation is growing while the Empire itself is shrinking and shrinking. And Dusk kind of mentioned it too when he talks about kind of like the branches are of all of the Empire, let's say, are being either cut or they're being taken over and things like that. And it's just the choice to just observe for now, like I'm saying with Demerzel, I could totally see us looking back at that and that being kind of like a sabotage thing.
Yeah.
Like, how is it better to just sit there and like let it continue happening? I don't know. It doesn't seem very. This also doesn't seem very Day. It doesn't seem like the days we know. I mean, and again, maybe she's trying to learn the lesson from Anacreon and Thespis, and technically at some level, like that decision from season 1 kind of created the situation a little bit of what's there. So maybe caution is the word of the day and should win the day. But oh wow, Day. It's just, I don't know. It's just interesting, and I might be in danger of accepting that that's what's going to happen and then trying to filter everything through that being the truth. I don't know. Screw it if that's that's the road that I go down, because it'll be fun anyway for me. But I just loved all of this stuff, man. It was just really interesting. It was just a great, like, here's the chessboard for this season, and here's all of the new players, and you recognize the faces, but you might not recognize the actions.
You guys keep validating me, and it feels so good about how much I love the Cleon storyline. Like that's what the Cleon storyline is, the true reason I wanted to do Rooks and Bets. And I think it's playing out. Like, you guys are just bringing a smile on my face every time you guys are thinking about the different motivations, how it's playing throughout the genetic dynasty. It's so good. But let's leverage this whole conversation. We're already talking about Terminus. We only get 1/1.5 scenes on Terminus this episode. So they give you like the quick flash over to it. And it's confirmed like 173 years since they've been exiled from the Trantor, which is the 138 years. I want to say that that the most recent time skip plus the 35-year time skip that it took Gale to eventually wake up in the Raisha's spaceship. So all that is the 173 years. And this place has been through some changes, man. It is so futuristic. They expanded exponentially, and we found out pretty quickly, like, of course, there's going to be a new warden. We have all new characters. Shout out Holt McCallany, I think is how you say his name.
Yeah,
dude,
beast.
Great actor,
yeah.
Mindhunter. He's been in a Batman. He's been in a Mission Impossible. He's all over the place. Iron Claw.
Fight
He's the
Club.
freaking man. Yeah, Fight Club, of course.
I literally smiled when I saw him, and it was like, I really hope he is a character. He seems too big of a name to just like play this scene, So excited.
I agree. All I want to do is just say, and you guys can talk about whatever you want here. The emergency sirens are going on because the vault is active for the first time since we last saw Harry in the season finale of season 1, where the null field just to bring that back into play. It expanded after Harry went back in, and now it's contracting for the first time. And this is usually a sign that the vault's going to open. And so now there's all this lore in the Foundation Society, have lived it for 100 years, about Harry the Prophet. So it's cool that factions have changed, the environment has changed, the city has grown so much. This is going to be a fun playground for part of the scenes that we get in season 2. But right now, I don't know how much you guys have, but floor's yours.
It didn't necessarily manifest the way that I was anticipating, this whole level of profit and this kind of shift in belief from kind of the OGs being, I would say, really gung-ho with the plan, and they knew Harry the man and the math and that stuff. And it seemed always inevitable that you get so far removed from the actual occurrence of things that it turns more into like a mythology and a spiritual and a kind of a religious thing. I definitely was more picking up on it from the perspective of like the Anacreons, and they that like would latch on to him as maybe like a replacement for the gods that they had previously worshipped, that you could totally argue completely abandoned them, in which their planet got completely bombed to shit, and then their plan to blow up the empire didn't work either. And Harry had a big role in that second one, and I'm just so interested to see more about the society. They've had more than enough time for the Anacreons and the Thespins and the OG Foundationers, the Encyclopedists, to combine and mingle and all of those things. And I want to see more about the society itself, because the Harry stuff, that was me swatting away a hair, by the way, for everyone watching on YouTube. Those quick reflexes. The Harry stuff feels like I'm not at a point, and we talked about this almost similarly in the season 1 finale, of like, I still don't know what the hell's going on or what any of the mechanisms are for that stuff. I'm almost glad, and we'll, again, getting potentially ahead of ourselves, the Gale and Sal stuff of pretty much confirmed that there's 2 versions of them. Yeah. And I feel like we obviously know a lot less about the Vault version of Harry.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice that season 1, episode 1, and they're like, okay, Vault's opening again. So maybe Jimmy will get those answers that he kind of walked away from in season 1.
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth, because when it came to the Vault, to Harry, I was saying this episode still is cementing that maybe we're just going to be like, okay, this is what's happening. Because my question is immediately, we know the Vault was triggered. He says it was triggered by the Anacreons, but then why show us Sal with the Prime Radiant, turning it on, and then having it like combine with the Vault, and then it making that seem like the reason why the Vault opened, but then him come out and say, who the hell are you, to Sal? It's just confusing, because then in this episode, they kind of reiterated the Vault's turning back on. Is Harry coming back? Well, does that mean the next crisis is happening? Is he coming back for the next crisis? It's not that someone's using a Prime Radiant to activate the Vault. It's that,
she did, though.
Is it just
who? Gale did use the Prime Radiant.
Not on Terminus, but somewhere else. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. And they're acting like, is the Vault opening because a crisis coming and Harry's coming, or is it because war's coming? Are we going to get an answer? I hope we do, but it does seem like you said, Kyle, there's obviously now 2 Harrys, and I hope you're right, Luke, that this is as confusing as it'll get, because once we get into the Prime Radiant talk, that's when it gets even more confusing with Harry. But I'm glad you called out Holt McCallany, because as soon as I saw him, I was cheesing. He's definitely going to be a badass warden, and he's definitely going to be highlighted this season. He's got to be. Like you said, there's no way you cast him and him just be a minor character. So I'm excited for that. I'm assuming we'll see the crisis in full-fledged crisis here, whatever that becomes. The warden will be a big part of it. So I'm in. I'm in for Terminus. For everything that we've seen, can Gale and Sal even get back to Terminus to be a part of this crisis? Without, do they have to hang out with some spacers, and maybe Hugo is alive, and then they jump on the Invictus and insert the thing into the back of their neck, and they can jump to Terminus to be a part of it? I have no idea, because whatever. But Luke, is it time? Is it time to
Yeah.
move to the next bucket?
Yeah. Let's, dude, this is the hardest part of my job today is talking about this Harry stuff because let's do this and then we'll end with the Synax because of course the climax of the Harry storyline inside the Prime Radiant is him leaving it, and then we directly see him interact with Gale and Sal at the next scene. So the most I can just say is that he is just working. He's working through things in his own mind. He is the confirmed AI version, or at least the non-vault version, because of the Synax storyline, where we find out that Gale actually the night before. I know I'm mixing things right now, mixing the buckets. The night before, she uploaded him to the Prime Radiant in almost like a prison fashion. And the conversation that happens is she still doesn't want to let him out, but this whole storyline is almost him getting his independence and stepping out himself.
Jailbreak.
But we do get to see a glimpse of Harry Seldon, the man's ex-wife, who not ex-wife, his wife who died. We get to see her. We get to see the form of Yana. She'll come back probably in the form of just like him talking to himself. And then we get to see a philosopher or a mathematician that was also important to the calculations that went into creation of the Prime Radiant. But you can see that he is still unaccepting of the fact that Raish wasn't the one that ended up on the ship, but it was Gale. So he's fighting with himself. He's going crazy. His mind's all over the place. He just figures out through his memories as a child, which he was always really smart, but he had like an abusive father. He figures it out that it's a tesseract, right? Like he's working in a different dimension and he's starting to master the environment to which he eventually is given a mission by this entity, by the Prime Radiant, manifested as a visual person, who says that you need to meet her at Una's planet. Una's world is what she ends up saying. I tried to sprint through that because again, I don't even know how much I really understand it all, but that's kind of what's going on. We're in the softest part of the sci-fi that we'll probably ever get to, because we're now talking about different dimensions and we're talking about the computation power of like a super being and all this math. But anything that you guys gleaned from this that you think is worth bringing up or maybe lends itself to guessing what's going to happen next?
I don't know maybe so much on that vein, but I think watching the episode as like a whole episode and like we're talking, and I think everything makes sense. I feel like as much as I need it to make sense. And that like when it opens and he's in that kind of more black and white space and he's going crazy a little bit and then he gets dragged out, like was him in the navigational system, and then him getting dragged out as Gale putting him into the Prime Radiance. So then we see him in the new environment and then he figures that out, and then the whole Kale person that he talks to is like, okay, he's in the Prime Radiant. I was almost upset that they revealed the Prime Radiant thing, because I was like, when he's in it and it's all the shapes and the triangles and he's moving, and I was like, oh, he's totally in the Prime Radiant, and they said it and I was like, damn, I was gonna sound so cool on the podcast. But
you didn't have a thought that it was the vault version?
I did not know.
Okay.
I guess because he knew about like the ship stuff.
True.
Because he says he's kind of having that conversation with himself. But it's interesting too, because they literally said it in season 1 finale when Harry is talking, and or maybe it's episode 9, and someone asks him, maybe it's Polly, of like, were you in there the whole time? Were you watching?
Yeah.
And he said like, no, like if that was the case,
bro.
man, yeah, I would have been a little fucked up. And then we see it, the actual reality of that with his evil twin brother,
who was only in the Prime Radiant for a day too, if you think about it at that terms. Like
but he was in the computational Johnsky with Gale for 134 years.
Yes.
Right. So he was experiencing that first setting that we saw for that long, which makes sense of why he was as crazy as he was. And the result being a very antagonistic Harry to Gale freely admits to a very antagonistic Gale. I mean, they do not like each other. I would say borderline hates him for the way that he withholds all the information. He hates her at this point for holding him in a prison essentially for that long. So we haven't existed yet in a world where they're not working together. We've seen how powerful it is when they do work together and what they can accomplish. And it'll be quite the roadblock with Sal, I'm sure, feeling like an estranged daughter. She kind of has a feeling for Harry too. I think she supports Harry and likes Harry and sees his perspective, but also she's going to be like, well, this is my mom and I want to be close with my mom. So this is a nice recipe. I like the ingredients of this dish.
I like that. Yeah. I don't know that I really need to say anything about Harry within the Prime Radiant because
Okay.
I think you nailed everything, both of you guys. And I think that as I'm watching, I'm just like, I'm going to take this as entertainment and I'm not just going to
Yeah.
try to make any sense of it. Um, because when I think it's supposed to be like that. I mean, when he's trying to work everything out, he's not making sense. And then Yana's like, no, think harder, think differently. And then I'm fine with all of that. The funny thing about the ending of this for Gale and Harry is that Sal was talking Gale into letting Harry out, but then Harry broke himself out and he was pissed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready to see how they react towards each other. If they're going to throw down, if he's going to just try to get more logical now that he's finally out of the Radiant. I don't know how easily she can lock him right back in. Has he broken that so that he can never be locked back in again? We'll have to see. But I mean, he was pretty scary, and they call him the Ghost, and it's like a ghost. I mean, obviously, it's an AI projection or whatever. I say obviously, but whatever the hell he is. But they make it scientific, and he's not like a
Mm-hmm.
ghost. But I mean, he showed up like a ghost to me, and he was haunting their asses, man. I was like, oh shit.
I thought
I'm
that line delivery was just so badass. He's like, Gail
Yeah.
Dornick. He's like, it's time you and I had a reckoning. And he was just freaking pissed. And they need him because skipping to the end of the next
yeah.
book, and we'll go back and talk about some of
yeah.
the things.
Oh,
Like
they're all
they're
combined anyway. This
yeah. But there's like a hurricane coming, and this is going to absolutely, destroy whatever pieces of land they can even float on currently, which is like nothing. So they need Harry to debug the ship and figure it out, which he should be able to do in a second, and then they can leave. But we also have like their info share and then the rescue mission of the ship, which I'm curious about your guys' take because I had to just sit here and just keep my mouth shut when you're guessing how they're going to get off this planet. What are
Yeah.
they going to do? Well, you could talk about the whole ship thing and everything there. But the interesting piece that starts this whole bucket off is the fact that they are explicit and they info share about their abilities, where I think Kyle, you laid it out last episode, or maybe it was Jimmy. One of you said, I think it was Kyle, because just edited this. I should know this. Where Sal has the connection to the past, and then Gail has the connection to the future. They talk about this, and then Gail even whips out Sal even whips out the coin trick again to know that she's lying. So you can talk about that. And then the last thing I'll say is, which will be very important, is the nightmare that Gail is having. I think it's the second time you see her this episode. You just see a flash of something, somebody that will come back into play in a really fucking cool way.
The
Uh,
the future past
like that.
thing was odd. I mean, Gail, I guess, is just adjusting to the fact that this is her daughter and doesn't really know how to act. It was odd that she just like immediately shut it down. It was like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It was like,
No.
okay, boss, like
Yeah.
clearly there's a connection there. It's not crazy to think that you're experiencing just different sides of the same coin, to use Sal's, preferred way to do magic or whatever the heck that ability is, because we're not entirely sure there. I just very quickly, I think, to harp on the how they're getting off this thing. In my opinion, the fact of like the Harry aspect of it is the saving grace of like, I'm okay with the fact of the way it went down. At first, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me that like this is like the solution and it's whatever. But the whole Harry aspect of it is very interesting in that he has a destination in mind, that he wants to go to Una's world. And if he's going to be the person that fixes the mechanics and the electric, like, can he not then become whatever was on the Raven, where like the two of them can't access or change anything? Can he just be like, fuck you guys? Like, yeah, we're going to Una's spot. Because that could be interesting. Now. Yeah. Like, I mean, that would be, you could say, deserved retribution against Gale. I mean, I don't know where they want to go. Terminus, I don't remember if they mention it, but like, it feels like they're going to go where Harry wants to go.
I agree. I keep saying that. You talk first, and then I agree with everything you're saying. Day,
bro. You're done.
Baby.
Yeah.
You're my dad, man. You're.
It's okay, son. Maybe next episode.
You're coddling me, man. You're coddling me.
New rule. Jim needs to disagree with one thing Kyle says in an episode. Yes, I disagree. Yeah, right? I disagree.
How many times do I have to say you nailed it, dude? Before I freaking it is your birthday,
bro.
So you are
Settle
day.
Talk about the dream.
Well, really quickly, I do. This is going to be a conversation for another podcast, whether it's another Foundation podcast or just a fun Bingetown podcast. But quickly, we can talk about this. And for everyone who is a fan of our podcast coverage, and you listen to our dark matter coverage, we talked about hard science and soft science. And for lack of a better way of explaining it, just very, very quickly, hard science actually seems logical. It might not be something that you can do right now in our time, but it can be explained with logic. And then soft sci is basically just like, hey man, just accept it, right? We're just gonna do
Somehow
something here, right?
Palpatine returned.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
magic, open-ended
we were
magic.
really, Matt, and we were really, really giving props to Blake Crouch, the writer of the Dark Matter book and the showrunner and writer of the show, because he was giving us explanations to things that we didn't expect to get explanations for. And Foundation does seem to be going very soft sci in certain ways, where they're just like, just enjoy the ride, homies. Just enjoy the ride. You don't need to know everything. And we know that it just happens sometimes. Certain shows go one way, other shows go another way. And it would be an interesting conversation to try to figure out when it's allowable and when it's not allowable, and when we as viewers accept it. Because like you said, Kyle, the ship thing, that I was like, all right, whatever. There's definitely no way we could have theorized it. Or ship apparently is fine after 140 something years. It's underwater. They're going to have to go down into the water, and then they're going to give each other. Gail's going to breathe into Sal, bring her back to life, stick the thing in and open the door and bring everybody back, and we're good, right? And the Harry thing did save it. They need Harry to actually power it up and use it enough to be able to leave. But why are we so like, oh, it's fine? It's hard. It's a weird thing. Why? I mean, because people could say that's hypocritical in certain ways of us, because we are usually very like fine tooth comb, but certain shows just, it's allowable. And I don't know why this one is, but I didn't
Plus,
really have a
think about this. Think about what this show is trying to accomplish with the different planets, the jumping the timelines, it's centuries. Like the scope is so huge that if this was a story that was only about Gale, I could see us caring more about this, where you're following her 24/7. She's the main character of every scene. But we have so
right.
much going on that it's just like things need to happen. But yeah, I mean, I don't notice it as something that's like a foul yet.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't either. Like, maybe I rolled my eyes at like, oh, the ship's under the water and they can bring it
Yeah.
back up. Okay, cool. I mean, I
At
thought
first.
yeah, but it didn't make me like question at all whether I freaking love this episode.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's why I said it's for another time, because maybe we
All
need
right,
to.
hit me with your take on the dream, if there's anything you have there.
I got
I don't
nothing.
know. I don't really have a take on the dream. I mean, she sees the future. I think she's seeing something from one of the crisis. I'm wondering if they somehow can get back to Terminus. I think that's the route it has to go. I think Sal or Gale, one or the other, has to be on Terminus. Maybe one has to go to Terminus, one has to go to Helicon. That would suck because we want them together, but maybe the end points, the end goals for them will eventually be, all right, we're together. We made a bond, but reluctantly we have to be the heads of each foundation. One goes one way, one goes the other way. And Gail's future is she's right in the middle of one of the wars, because we know war is coming. That's all I can think of.
So, all right, well, let's talk about this because this is the last thing I have written down, which is the actual visualization through the prime radiant of these crises, which is I thought was cool. Probably could have been done
Yeah.
in season 1, but it is cool. I guess they needed to wait until they hit the first point where they actually beat the first crisis, and now we're dealing with a situation where the second one's about to happen. And that's probably why the showrunners decided to pick this point in time when we're going to skip ahead to for the Cleons and the Foundation. It all kind of ties together because the second crisis is coming. And now we know that if they fail this second crisis, it's going to lead to more and more and more and more, which could eventually lead to the darkness and the fall of humanity legitimately never stopping. Something changed in how they dealt with the first crisis that the stakes got raised for the second crisis. And that's just an interesting thing that Gale and Sal now are the only people, and Harry, I guess, are the only people in the universe with this knowledge that they need to now act on. So that was really cool to see. Kind of fits with the timeline of Marvel and the MCU, how they're doing the sacred timeline, all this shit's happening. It's just very pop culture now, but this is like a cool idea. I think how they're doing it, it's not too complicated yet, and how they're visualizing it was pretty cool.
The visualization was cool. A big fan of all of this. In my head, I couldn't stop laughing at the fact that it's basically Gale is showing the branch, and it's like that's kind of like you basically to Sal of like, this is like literally we're branching because your dad was throwing it down and I was throwing it back, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. You know what I mean? But also it feels like I'm reading this as almost like a meta wink at the audience of like, okay, we got the second crisis. So it's like, okay, we're in season 2, but that third crisis coming behind the second one, baby. You're going to want to stick around for season 3 because that third crisis is the one that we're really advertising. That's the way that and again, because we're sitting in a world now watching it where we know season 3 is coming. That's just the way that I took that. Neither of those comments were serious.
1 month from today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
1 month from today. Yes.
When we're recording, not when you're listening to this.
True. Right. Exactly. And the visualization was really, really cool. My take on it is, like you said, Kyle, you weren't being serious, but the biggest branch would be Gale and Raish and the difference there. My question to you guys, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the Radiant specifically in that scene, but just more Harry talk. Harry created this version of himself to eventually appear when necessary. Did he expect there to be 2 of him? Is there a mistake that there's 2? Am I not supposed to know? Like, the Vault Harry exists and may reappear. And now we're seeing Prime Radiant Harry that was on Raish's ship, the Raven.
We're going to have to think of a way to refer to the different Harrys. Harry number 2, I don't know.
We could say, say Harry Prime if we're going to go the 100 style.
Harry, we go Scar Harry. Scar Harry.
We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it.
Evil Harry.
Scary ass Harry for Vault Harry, or I'm sorry, Raven Harry. But now I'm just going to confuse everybody even more. But so I mean, is there a Harry on Helicon? We've talked about this. Is there going to be more than 2 Harrys? Is Harry in the vault?
You're rooting for it.
I want more Harrys.
More Harrys. Give me more Harrys.
It's not enough Harrys.
I'll take all the Harrys. Have a Harry.
It's an interesting.
Every freaking
It's an interesting point though. Of the Vault Harry didn't seem aware of it. You know that there maybe was another one, and the same thing with the one that was on the ship with Gale. Is it because it didn't really have to happen in the conversation? Is that something that he's holding back from everyone else? Or is it? Because it seems like if it was part of the plan, then those 2 should kind of know that it was part of the plan. It's interesting if it's not part of the plan and maybe something went different, went a little haywire in what Harry was anticipating was going to happen with this step of the process. I'm interested in any world. I think that Harry is not so confident in what the next steps is or like what's actually happening, because that's an interesting place to be for all of that.
Yeah, because like you said, Luke, when we and Kyle were talking about multiple Harrys, one on Helicon, one on Terminus with the 2 vaults, as Luke personally specifically said that they showed the scene where his coffin, for lack of a better term, broke down and created 1 vault. So is it just we didn't see another vault being created? Is it just 1 vault? It is confusing, the 2 Harrys. I mean, if Harry's saying that in the plan I'm going to create 2 Harrys, then why not just create like 500 Harrys and be like, yo, let's all just put our heads together and figure this shit out, man.
Every planet gets a Harry. Every planet in the Alliance gets a Harry.
You get a Harry. You get a Harry. Freaking let them rip, man.
I think 2, because it seems like we're winding down here. I have 2, I think, final things. One, the first one is more serious in that I think I mentioned in the season 1 finale that there was a sculpture in the garden on Trantor that looked like the vault when it was open. I think it actually turns out that it's the palace itself that looks like the vault when it opened, of like the 2 symmetrical sides, and where the parts closest to the middle are like really tall towers, and then it kind of like peters down as it moves outward from that central point. I don't know again what that means. Is it pure pattern recognition? Is it actually a hint to something bigger? But again, as is all of our I want to think that I'm right. So I'm going to think of everything through the perspective of that's going to mean something. And then the second one is, Luke, this is not, I mean, this is so difficult, and Jimmy too, potentially, of do you recognize Rue from anything? She just looked familiar to me. I did not know it off the top of my head. I looked it up. I'm more just completely curious. I don't think you're going to get it.
No, I don't recognize her.
She is Lady Amelisa from season 1 of Wheel of Time.
Dude, I was going to just throw a Wheel of Time guess out there too, and I just didn't. I'm so mad I didn't. I should have.
Okay.
I
could have cut it anyway.
And I was like, she looks so familiar, but I couldn't.
I'm gonna hit her up and see if she can talk to Apple TV about saving Wheel of Time. She's got those connections now.
Bridge the gap, baby.
She's actually going to be on Alien Earth, which we might cover on over on Binge Empire. So
Wheel of Time, Hulu, save us.
Yeah,
save
we're
us,
shopping the show. Don't worry.
Who's got commercials? I prefer, Apple.
We're not going to be choosers at this point.
I'll deal with commercials, dude.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'll deal with some commercials if we get
the budget.
Yeah,
true.
Seriously. Speaking of budget, something that I do want to call out, which is pretty crazy. I did read today that Foundation has one of the lowest budgets of the main franchise TV shows that they have on Apple TV, which you would think would be the opposite because of how beautiful it looks, but it actually has a tight budget. And I think there was rumors that's why the showrunner left because of the tight budget. But I mean, they're doing a lot with a little, I guess, because it looks freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, I actually have the numbers in front of me because shout out Spaceman94 in the Discord posted a screenshot of it, and it says that it's $4.5 million an episode, which is about 1/3 the cost of The Morning Show and C on Apple TV, and even less, like an even smaller fraction or percentage compared to Severance and Masters of the Air. That's pretty crazy.
That's got to be paying the actors too, right? Obviously, because the morning show you have Jennifer Aniston, and I mean that's the morning show, right?
Yeah. Well, Lee Pace, get that man a bigger check.
Yeah, man. The morning show with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston, and then of course Severance.
Steve Carell is in that too.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. The morning show is something Kathleen wanted to cover, so maybe that'll come to the core podcast at some point, but I personally have not seen it. But yeah, it seems like it's casting. Luke's putting the thumbs down for the core podcast covering. Maybe Kathleen will have to do a solo.
Nothing against the show. I actually like the show itself. It's just not something
a podcast kind of show.
Podcasting on. Yeah.
Kathleen will listen to Foundation, so she won't hear it anyway.
True.
Kathleen just actually is starting the show. She's like Foundation.
She'll like it if she binges it. She'll like it.
Oh yeah. I really don't have any major parting shots. I think this was a really, really good season 2, episode 1.
Would you call it a season 2 pilot?
Yeah, season 2 pilot. And I will say props to them because I was so worried that I was going to be missing / too curious about what happened to our past Cleons from season 1 that I was going to be annoyed about this time jump. And you said, Luke, they get, they experiment, they get a little crazy, they get a little interesting, they do what they got to do, and they suck you right back in. But I mean, obviously still in the back of my head, I would love to know if Dust tries to get rid of Day, if they find out he was altered, or if it was just Dawn as the first alteration, and then from that Dawn forward, all of them are altered, things like that. I mean, they said, I don't know if we're right about it or not, guys. Hit us up on the Discord, YouTube comments, etc. If he's the 13th Cleon and they were saying he knew Fear, I would like to know what happened to him. But again, they distracted me. They really did. This Cleon trio is doing it for me. I'm in. Luke, anything else?
Home. I'm good to go, man. I'm ready. Next time we talk, if just a reminder, it's going to be covering season 2, episodes 2 and 3. So if you're following along, just feel free to binge the next 2 and be on the lookout for the next podcast.
Yep. So we're going to do 2 episodes at a time from now on, and then we're going to have the finale with its own episode, and then we're going to be doing season 3, of course, episode to episode. I'm not sure if Apple is dropping multiple episodes for week 1. We'll have to check that out. They have been on a roll with that with certain TV shows that are dropping, and they did it for Silo, I believe. So there's a few that they
Murderbot
did it
too.
for. They did it for Murderbot as well. So we'll see. Otherwise, guys, hit that subscribe button if you're a fan of the sci-fi television shows. Not only should you check out Murderbot and Foundation, you should check out Dark Matter, Silos, Severance. It's all on our core podcast feed. Apple TV is really, really killing it with the sci-fi, and we have a blast covering. If you're a fan of the three of us covering shows, you have a lot on the list here. We're covering Murderbot, we're covering Foundation, and we covered Dark Matter together. Me and Luke were on Severance together. So hit that subscribe button and join the fun with all of that. Hit up our Discord, bingetowntv.com/Discord. Hit up Binge Empire for everything non-Apple TV related. Any TV show that you're interested in, let us know in the Discord. We'll look into it. We'll look into covering it. We have Dexter Resurrection coming soon for Binge Empire. That's actually going to be on the same exact day as Foundation Season 3. Your boy will be doing double duty for that. We also have Squid Game coming at the end of June. That will actually come first. Then we have Wednesday, Stranger Things, so much coming. Alien Earth, like we were talking about, that may be on the horizon as well in August. So hit that subscribe button. We'll leave all the links in the description. Once again, we are the Core Podcast. We'll see you guys for episodes 2 and 3. Thank you so much for listening.